see you guys in the dark.
I'd like to think I have a pretty decent instinct now that it comes to knowing who has bad intentions. But I wasn't always as cautious and observant as I am now. When I was in high school, I always felt so ugly. I had low self-esteem and anxiety, which was really more of a problem rather than my looks. So if anyone of the opposite sex gave me even a little attention, I would start to look like them. I was pretty innocent, despite now how desperate I was. Having only kissed one boy, so when I was 17 and a college guy put interest into me, I immediately clung to him. I was on this app, and I met a guy who lived 7 hours away from my home. His name was Brandon, and he was gorgeous. Blonde hair, muscular, blue eyes. He played soccer for his university and was 19 years old. Honestly, he wasn't my usual type. I really liked guys with darker hair and eyes. I still do, but he was really handsome and really kind. He would shower me with compliments and talk to me all the time. I lived alone in an apartment with just my cats, so when I would get lonely or scared, he always comforted me. A month into talking, he started asking for pictures, not ones of my face, but obviously nudes or bra pictures. Now this was nearly 6 years ago, and I didn't have a good concept of stranger danger on the internet. I mean, smartphones had only been around for about 2 or 3 years at this point. 17-year-old me, who was so insecure, wanted to make him happy because I couldn't believe I had gotten a guy like him. I was ready to do anything he asked. I never sent naked pictures. I was too insecure for that. But I would send pictures of me in my bra. He would shower me with compliments, saying how sexy and beautiful I was, and I fell for every word. With time, I started to get upset, though. I wanted to see him. I would always send him pictures when he asked, but he never sent me any. He would show my body pictures of him with his shirt off or things, but the pictures were always of bad quality. When I started getting too persistent, he promised he would start calling me. For some reason, this appeased me, and we'd talk many times a week. After a couple of months, he got increasingly more sexual with me, telling me that he wanted to do things with me and how badly he wanted me. This made me nervous, since I had never kissed a boy, but it almost made me a little excited. It felt good to be wanted by someone I had really grown to like. This was all during the first semester of my senior year of high school, and I was going to turn 18 the next semester in late January. As it got to Christmas time, he started to talk about coming to my city to see me for my birthday. This had me really excited since I wanted to see him in person so badly. We had first talked about me going to him, something he had insisted on, but I chickened out and said I couldn't do the drive alone. We planned on a weekend after my birthday, and everything seemed fine. But then one day in my choir class, my best friend, an exchange student from Germany, was talking with me about him. I was telling her about him and showing pictures, and she got very unsettled. "Have you seen him on video?" I told her no, and she gave me a skeptical look. Something doesn't feel right. There is no way he is real. Not that you couldn't date someone like him, but he is just too perfect. She was very direct and blunt with me about it, something my other friends weren't. So I took her word deeply, and I'm so thankful that I did. I immediately asked him for a picture of his face. He made up some excuse about how he couldn't take a picture right then, so I persisted, asking every day. Finally, my instincts were kicking in, and I was getting scared. I told him I wanted to video call him. He said no. I fought him on it for hours one night, telling him that if he tells me the truth, I won't get mad. He refused. I put the name he gave me into Facebook, determined to find him on my own if he wasn't going to give in. Nothing came up on him. I texted him telling him I couldn't find his Facebook, and he gave in, giving me a completely different name, and told me, "That's me." I remember just feeling cold as I read that. I looked up the account, and everything he had told me was a lie. His name, his face, his age. He was 25, not 19. I was terrified. I thought I had been talking to someone just 2 years older, which is legal in my state, but he was 8 years older. I immediately stopped texting him. That's when he started getting obsessive. He would text me dozens of times a day, call me over and over again. He would beg me to answer him, to give him a chance. Then he started threatening me to answer. He told me he had saved all of my pictures. He kept them all and told me he would send them to my friends and family on Facebook. Show everyone me in my bra and show our text messages talking about what he would do to me sexually if we met. Looking back, all of that was more damaging to me than to him. But I was young and stupid and afraid. I hated my body so much, and I was terrified of people seeing it. So I started talking to him again, more reserved and cautious this time. The days inched closer to my birthday and the weekend we had planned. Our messages had become bland and short since I was trying to make him lose interest in me, but he never gave up. If I took too long to message, then he would threaten me again. My birthday fell on a Monday that year, and he sent me all kinds of messages. I don't even remember what I did that birthday. I didn't have many friends, and I've never liked to celebrate, so it was probably just small. When Friday hit, I got a text message from him that morning saying that he was driving to my city, that he would pick me up from school. I was terrified. I had lost a lot of my friends the semester before, so they obviously had no clue of my situation. Out of desperation, I went to one of my guy friends who I hadn't talked to in a couple of months and spilled everything to him. He was a longtime friend, so he was sympathetic and promised to follow me home that day. I went straight to my car, ignoring the mass amount of text messages saying, "Where are you?" and "I'm here." My friend drove behind me all the way to my apartment, which he had no clue I was living in, and stayed with me as I cried for a while. I turned my phone off, and my friend left later in the night. Brandon had no clue where I lived, but I was still paranoid. What if he somehow found me? Only 3 people knew where I lived. 4 now with my guy friend, and he didn't come in contact with any of them. When I finally turned my phone on, he was threatening me again. I was so exhausted and fed up. I started spam texting him, yelling and venting. I told him how stressed he made me, and how what he was doing is wrong. I told him to send the pictures, and that I didn't care anymore. I started to attack his character, telling him how no one could love him if he hides who he is, then threatens people like that. Thankfully for me, he had enough care for me to take my words to heart. He apologized and told me that he deleted all of my pictures. He swore to leave me alone as long as we can still talk every once in a while as friends. I agreed, even though I knew that I was lying. I talked to him for a month, short responses, until he finally just gave up. Even now at 22, I still see his name appear sometimes. I blocked his number and deleted him on everything, but his name still shows up sometime on my Instagram or Snapchat when he is trying to re-add me. He's the reason I don't give my name or picture out. He isn't the first stalker I experienced. The first was when I was in 6th grade, but that's a story for another time. To Brandon, who lied and collected underage pictures of me, then threatened me with them, let's not meet. Middle-aged female creeper here. Big creep experience. I might offer a bit of insight as to how I went down this wrong path. My dad was a large, very dominating presence. His word was absolute law, and you could be hit or verbally belittled during any discourse with him. To him, every thought I had was incorrect just because it was mine. Any social situation that went awry, I was always at fault, just because I was me. I was told to shut up and follow other people, regardless of whether what they were doing or engaged in is worthwhile or not. My questions were met with, "None of your business," or "You don't know what you're talking about." I was kicked up the stairs and hit in the face repeatedly by him, once about 20 times in a row. After the divorce from my mom, he paid the barest minimum in child support. My mom did not want to get a real job. We kids went to school in soiled, ragged clothes, of any which we had very few. Classmates taunted me. I was the dirty girl at school that nobody liked. People would yell, "Take a bath with soap tonight," or some things like that. I even had a bully that would ride by me on a motorcycle and try to rip out my hair, or just flat try to run me down. He and his friends ambushed me, and he hit me in the face with a book and threw all my stuff around the street. My loud mom developed a very strange need to be the center of attention. What few friends I did have, she would monopolize when I had over, like she was competing with me for them. She asked one girl to spend the night. That friend said to me, "That's kind of weird." I never had someone's mom ask me to sleep over before. At the school, Mom would smoke, go braless, and be the loudest person on the scene, like she wanted everyone to look at her. Then she would mock me for not having enough friends, while I stood there humiliated in my filthy clothes. By my mid-teens, I was about mute outside of the very few friends I was used to. I was physically unattractive to boot, so could not make the dating scene. However, I did develop teenage crushes. I knew I had no chance with these guys, but I wanted to be in their orb somehow. My friends would help me case their residences. We would go into the woods behind their homes at night and watch the going-ons through the windows. We'd see family members peering outside the windows, trying to determine what was afoot on their lawns. Since we had darkness on our side, we were never spotted. It must have been very unsettling for them. We spied on at least 3 different guys for me, and even put letters in some of the mailboxes. I checked out their workplaces and scanned for their cars. I can't put a number on how many hang-up phone calls I did just to hear their voices. This was before stalking became a thing. I knew I was guilty of trespassing, but back then I looked upon our forays onto people's private property as no more serious than a parking violation. It took many years before I totally got the importance of respecting other people's personal spaces. Due to my boundaries having been breached by my father's physical abuse and dominance, my mom with her invasions into my social relationships, and bullies encroaching me on physical and emotionally when I was just that clueless, plus the years of rejection due to my involuntary lack of personal hygiene and shabby garments left me with literally no social abilities. My creepy behavior continued into college. I had to move out of the dorm due to my roommates being put off by my creep aura. I kept making the mistakes of being needy, clingy, and oversharing. I was so intimidated I was stone silent on some days. I tried an apartment with some add-on roommates. One found my constant presence so cringy, she told me that I was like a pet dog because I was always home. Finally, I took to living alone. I fell in love with the freedom from the looks that I used to get due to non-existent social lives. Oddly, I never felt bored or lonely, just liberated with plenty of choices, loads of peace of mind. In fact, I was pretty happy and good on staying permanently single since I had long given up the idea of marrying. The only problem was I still wanted a baby, and my creep factor remained an obstacle. I tried to sign on to a sperm bank that would service single women. I had passed all the physical tests and went on to the interview with their psychiatrist. I guess her creep radar went off, and she told me outright that she would recommend against the clinic signing me on as a client without giving me a clear reason. I was devastated and considered suicide. Then I dusted myself off and sallied forth. After 6 years of nonstop shoulder to the wheel, I became a mom by the traditional path and have several children. Determined for them to live a normal life, I made darn sure that they were well groomed with plenty of clean, attractive clothes. I set the example of being well behaved and reserved in public. I made it a point to stay out of their social lives unless there was a strong reason for me to get involved. There seldom was. I think this somewhat hands-off approach I took towards their relationships and friendships paid off for them. Today they are older teenagers with good relationship skills, jobs, and in college, high grades, never in trouble with drugs, drinking, or the law. Unfortunately, I think I still gave off a creep vibe to most of their parents. There have only been a handful of times where another mom invited me and the kids for fun time with her and her children. I had really hoped for lots of this mommy time with other moms, and I am a bit sad that I barely got to enjoy any. Most other parents seemed to welcome my kids to hang with theirs, as long as their weirdo mom kept my distance. Yep, still a member of the creep set after all these years, but at least I no longer act out in full creep mode. I have given up the yard, business, vehicle, and phone surveillance I carried out as an obsessive teen. I truly am sorry that I peeped in windows and stalked. My people skills are probably only about 70% of a normal person on my best days. So I have to come a good ways from my absolute zero. I stood at it as a young adult. But maybe most importantly, my respect of others' boundaries is now solid. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.